Alright, welcome viewers, and thank you so much for submitting your questions for this Q&A. And I was actually surprised that I got a lot of questions, so let's dive right into it now. So the questions are from Instagram, Patreon, and the community tab. I haven't received anyone on Facebook and Twitter, but yeah, whatever. Let's start. So the very first question, which is a really good one, asked by Abel, what is your next subscriber goal and what are you going to do when you hit that goal? Well, obviously, my next goal is 10,000 subscribers. I hope I will reach that in this year, 2020, and what I will do after that, I'm not sure. We'll see then. Which character do you choose when you're playing Mario Kart? Well, actually, I play Mario Kart before you were born, I believe, because I got this beautiful game for the N64 at Christmas 1999. It's in the previous century, and I mostly play Luigi. What is your favorite country? Hard to say, got a lot, but for now I think I have the best memories to Poland. What is your favorite time in history? Well, it's hard to just like a favorite time because, you know, horrible things happened in history, but what period fascinates me the most, I believe it's like the interwar period, where it's actually the first years after the First World War had ended, and when there's all kinds of turmoil, conflict, civil wars, wars of independence in Central and Eastern Europe. Which university do you went to and what degree did you took? I went to the Erasmus University in the city of Rotterdam, got a bachelor in history and a master in media and journalism. What is your favorite game? And also Memecraft or Fortnite? Neither of those. My favorite game, also a game from the previous century, is Perfect Dark on the N64 by a company made called Rareware, which they later made games for, I believe, Xbox, but these were terrible. But this one is an amazing one. N64 Perfect Dark. Love it. Back to history. It is said that history is written by the victors. If you agree, what do you consider the most egregious example throughout history and in modern times? I think in history it would be the Vietnam War, because, you know, when we watch movies of the Vietnam War or when you visit the Vietnam War Museum in Ho Chi Minh City, the Americans are portrayed as, you know, the war crime committing savages, so to say. But in reality, the VC and the NVA, North Vietnamese Army, committed as many or even more and worse atrocities during this conflict. And in modern times, what do you consider modern times? It's hard to pinpoint. I think it might have something to do with the Middle East, but then again, it's really complicated, so I can't think of something right now. If you have an idea, feel free to leave a comment down below. My future plans, well, in March, I'm gonna travel to Serbia and obviously gonna do some video shooting there. I'm planning on going to Germany, to the north, and do some cool history on location there. And in the summer, I'll go to Poland once again, and I'm also going to the Kaliningrad Oblast, former East Prussia. So there's a lot of interesting history there. And also to northwest Poland, which is also a part of former East Prussia. I love to visit that area as well. What is my favorite Dutch snack? Well, I'm trying to be healthy, so I don't eat that much snacks anymore, but if I have to pick one, it's the frikadel. Colin Castleman, thank you for your patronage. He asked me, if you could go back in 1939 and be in charge of the Allied armies, what would you do differently? I would, as soon as Germany invades Poland, I would march my French and British army right into Germany to finish it off then and there. Cool, and I hope you liked your episode about the enemies of the French Revolution. Let me know. Which school do you teach? I teach at a school in Wageningen. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? I barely eat pizza. If I eat pizza, it's pizza margarita. I know it's really boring, and so I don't eat pineapple pizza. If you want to do so, go ahead. What experience do you remember the most on your trip in North Korea? When I was in North Korea in 2016, I remember that you wanted to take pictures of everything because everything was interesting. Because normally when you travel, you have some interesting spots and there's less interesting spots, but in North Korea everything is interesting because it is North Korea. Is it true that copper wire was invented by two Dutch who saw a penny at the same time? I believe it was Alexander Graham Bell who invented copper wire. The Luxembourgish Empire. I love that name. Do you like Luxembourg? Yes, I do. Jan asks, could you share your experience as a history teacher and at what level do you teach? I teach at middle school and my experiences are varied, but mostly very positive. The very first question via the community tab was actually asked by Kingdom Bad Mapping. What inspired you to make videos? I really like that question. I was at the age of, I believe, 14, 15 when I made my first movie. It was a zombie movie, and for a while I made fiction movies. I also went to film school after I graduated from the Erasmus University, and I always had this thing for telling stories via video, and I also liked history, so I dropped the fictional part, and I now make videos about history. Although in some videos, I do some reenactment, like in some older ones about the Spartacist uprising and the Japanese invasion of the Dutch East Indies. So still the element is still there. What made the Winged Hussars such effective cavalry? Is it true that they didn't lose a single battle in over a century? I do not know much about the Winged Hussars. I know they had clever tactics. I do know that I have a lot of Polish viewers. So if you're watching this, and if you're Polish, and if you know the answer to this question, go all out in the comments. What are some of your favorite history channels on YouTube? These will be the Great War channel, the World War II Week by Week channel, and the Armchair Historian. What era people are you interested in the most? And another one asks, which time periods or events in history are you most interested in? Well, I already answered that question. I'd say that, I'm mostly interested in 20th century and First and Second World War, and the time in between. What do you think of Scandinavian countries as a whole, or Sweden in specific? Well, Scandinavia, you mean Sweden, Norway, and Denmark? I've only been in Denmark and Sweden, and I only visited the capital city. So I'm not that well traveled in Sweden, and I think that already says a lot about it, since I'm personally not really a big fan of Scandinavian history, the Vikings. I'm not really into that stuff. So yeah, I don't have much reason to travel there, and also because it's fairly expensive. Can you do a video about the Rothschilds? Thanks. No, most likely not. I'm not that much interested in family history, so I probably won't make a video about the Rothschilds. I'm sorry. What is your best and worst surprise during travels? I think the best, or one of the most funniest surprise, when traveling through Southeast Asia and you meet people for a second time that you've met before in whole other countries like months ago. Like when I was in Bali, I bumped into a guy that I met in Myanmar like half year earlier or something. So that's really such a coincidence. And it didn't only stop there. At some point I met people from the Netherlands that I knew. And I mean, there were so many coincidences, so that's pretty funny, I'd say. Yeah, worst surprise during travels, I didn't have much bad experiences, so to say. Yeah, I saw someone getting mocked. Yeah, that's basically it. Are there any hilarious historical events you could share? Well, during the German invasion of the Netherlands, I believe 2 Dutch officers were stationed inside a building, and the whole area was already overtaken by the Germans, who were all walking outside, and I read that they just walked out themselves, and when the Germans didn't notice them, they just walked through the area, just hopped on their motorcycle and just drove off. The president asked, do your students know about the channel? I hope they do. How old are you? 33. And how did you become a teacher? Well, I got my teaching degree after I finished film school. Then I traveled for a year, and then I had the opportunity because one teacher was at maternity leave. Sergio asked, have you ever visited the USA? If so, where or know which part of USA you're planning to visit? I'm not planning to visit the USA anytime soon. I also have a Iranian visa stamp in my passport, so that definitely doesn't go well. I have visited the USA before. I once went there, I believe it was the year 2006. Then I went to New York, and I went there again in 2012, and I did the West Coast, so I went to San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. Do you have a personal relation to the East Indies? No, not really. I mean, I'm Dutch and I traveled to Indonesia, and my granduncle fought in the Indonesian War of Independence, but that's pretty much it. Why is Heerenveen a Frisian city? Because it's in Frisia. What is your favorite book and historical personality? I think this goes for Orlando Figes. Figes, I never know actually how to pronounce it correctly. Anyway, it's a tragedy of a people, story about the Russian Revolution. I got the Dutch version right here. It's a pretty big one, but yeah, it's a really good one. It's my favorite. And my favorite historical personality, yeah, then I would give something like a guy that is like did great things for humankind. So yeah, Martin Luther King or perhaps Nelson Mandela, these kind of people. If you could change any historic event without consequences, what will it be and why that particular event? So you mean if I change anything, but it won't change anything because it has no consequences. Then I want to see what happens if, the French and the British would march into Germany as soon as the Germans crossed the Polish border for their invasion of Central and Eastern Europe. Would you like to do an episode on the gypsies in Europe? Actually, when I was in Berlin, I wanted to do a video about the prosecution of the gypsies by the Nazis in the Second World War at the monument, but I couldn't find the time, so perhaps that's something for the future, yes. Where would you want to travel in this year? Well, I already said I'm going to go to Serbia, perhaps Germany and the Kaliningrad Oblast, so I think that's pretty much it. Other places, I'm not sure yet. Was there more than one major battle Tsingtao in Asia during the First World War? I believe there wasn't. There was some fighting in, well, what you can call Oceania, in what is now Papua New Guinea, between German and Australian forces, but I believe that is pretty much it. If I'm mistaken, feel free to correct me. Do your students watch your videos? And if so, do you get feedback from them? Well, I hope my students watch my videos. I actually show quite a bunch of them in class, and some of them actually, they provide me with feedback. I think the best feedback I get from my students is when all of a sudden the people in the class are starting to talk to each other. So then I know, okay, this part is kind of dull, so that's why the attention, decreases. So when I notice that, that's actually the best feedback that I can have inside the class by just watching their viewing behavior, so to say. And that was it. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And tomorrow another video will come out, an interesting one. I'm not gonna say what it's about. You'll see tomorrow. Cheers.